Uncanny things women had to face in the Middle Ages. Imagine being ridiculed and punished for just being born a woman, a second-grade citizen. Yeah, you got it right. We're talking about the Middle Ages, where a world of unspeakable horrors for women lies beneath the veneer of chivalry and honor. Hello, friends. Well, if you often fantasize about the past and really want to know about the history of ancient civilizations, then you're at the right place. Welcome to Unthinkable Past, a channel better known for dishing out the outlandish ancient traditions of all times. Although popular portrayals of the Middle Ages often have featured knights, mythical creatures, and fairy tales, the accounts of ordinary people's lives during this era can be even more compelling, particularly those of women. Yeah, today we'll take you on a dark and sobering journey into the Middle Ages, a time when women were often subjected to unimaginable horrors. Too far from the romanticized tales of princesses and knights. From the witch trials to the brutal punishments for petty crimes, women were the prime targets of the authorities' wrath. But why were women so persecuted during this time? What led to such a brutal and inhumane treatment of half the population? Join us as we take a closer look at the uncanny things that women had to face during the Middle Ages. Better buckle up, as it's going to be a bumpy ride. Well, starting with some of the most brutal punishments. Women were, in fact, no way equal to men during the Middle Ages, as there were many laws and social expectations that placed women below them. Women were even held responsible for all the evils in the world, so they had to face various types of punishment every now and then. Although many of the reasons for gendered punishment remains consistent, the instruments of punishment and torture varied throughout history. For instance, the scold's bridle, also known as branks, was a form of punishment for women called scolds, who were considered too disruptive towards the quiet of their neighborhood with gossip and slander. This device was both painful and humiliating, consisting of a mask-like apparatus adorned with horns and an unsettling facial mask. The scold's bridle included a sharp metal gag that held the tongue, effectively silencing the wearer, and even a bell to attract others to see the women being punished. Not much different from the British and Scottish scolds, shrews were women in medieval Germany and Austria who did not conform to societal expectations and were boisterous and dominant. As a penalty for their behavior, shrews might have been subjected to the shrew's fiddle. Well, just hold on here. Though it resembled a fiddle in shape, the shrew's fiddle was anything but melodic. It featured a large opening for the neck and two smaller openings for the wrist, effectively locking the wearer's head in place and immobilizing their arms in front of their face, like handcuffs. Plus, women accused of disorderly conduct, in general, were subjected to water torture. In fact, water was literally poured down the nose to infest the lungs, making them feel like drowning. Moreover, sometimes they had to sit restrained on a ducking stool, but that kind of chair had a heightened risk, as it was attached to a wooden beam that could be lowered into the water to teach the woman a lesson. These ducking stools sometimes even caused drownings, with a not-so-bright side, as in, a woman who got drowned from the ducking was thus proved innocent and got absolved of the crime. Now, coming to their married lives. In medieval times, marriage was quite different than today. Women didn't have a choice as to who they would marry, and most of the time, women didn't even know the fact before they wed. Marriage back then, in fact, was not based on love, as most marriages were political arrangements. Husbands and wives were generally strangers until they first met. If love was involved at all, it came after the couple had been married. Moreover, marriages happened at a very early age, even earlier if the girl was a noble. A noble girl would be married between the ages of 12 and 15. Married women usually give birth within the first year of marriage, a noble status or not. Childbirth was very dangerous during the medieval period. Issues that we consider simple were often life-threatening for medieval women. For your interest, couples had an unusual way of resolving disputes during the Middle Ages, and it was through the horrifying practice of divorce by combat. Yeah, just before the divorce courts were invented and the use of witnesses became popular, married couples could settle their disputes by fighting themselves in a marital duel, as both parties had to engage in physical combat with each other through the use of clubs and rocks. This practice was common in medieval Germany and continued throughout the Middle Ages. Although it started as a part of Germanic law, the judicially sanctioned marital duel gained more prominence and later spread to Europe, where it became legally recognized amongst husbands and wives. However, it worked on the principle of the survival of the fittest. And you can take a guess how. Here, we must not forget the women of the night. Let me tell you that prostitution was a vice that was considered a necessary evil in the Middle Ages, as it was a means to curb men's lust. Ecclesiastics felt that if brothels weren't available to men in cities, they would find other inappropriate outlets for their entertainment and endanger the virtue of innocent women. So, in an effort to prevent potential problems, civic officials permitted sex workers to function within the city walls, so long as it was regulated and turned a profit. Still, rape was seen as a routine part of women's lives too during the Middle Ages. even as it was condemned. Moreover, it's widely believed that medieval Europeans, despite the Christian condemnation of extramarital sex by either spouse, only treated female adultery as a problem. While medieval women's sexual activity was heavily regulated, medieval men could have sex whenever they wanted. In fact, scholars of women's history often treat adultery as a paradigmatic female crime. Many pre-modern societies explicitly included this inequality in their laws as well, defining only a wife's extramarital sex as adultery. Well, some of you guys must have heard of the Walk of Shame. Thanks to some Hollywood flicks, women were subjected to the Walk of Shame during the Middle Ages as a public humiliation tactic for committing crimes or engaging in behavior deemed immoral by society. It was in fact intended to shame and punish women for their supposed transgressions and discourage others from following in their footsteps. It was often used for women accused of unlawful prostitution, adultery, or other sexual misconduct, but could also be used for women who were seen as disobedient or had violated social norms in some other way. Likewise, there was medieval nose-cutting. Nose-cutting, in this context, was highly gendered, punishing not only the woman's disloyalty to their abbess, but also indicating their sexual misconduct. By extension, the threat of such mutilation, if understood in the same way elsewhere, could function as an effective tool of oppression against women. Let's now see. How was getting your period in the Middle Ages? Well, a few things in human history have been constant. Death, taxes, and of course, periods. Yeah, women have been dealing with aunt Flo since the beginning of time. However, menstruation was considered a disease during the Middle Ages. Many believed that anyone who was currently menstruating could make people near them sick, and menstrual blood itself was thought to dull mirrors and even kill crops. So what did they do before pads and tampons? Well, the short answer is that most women with periods used cloth rags as a kind of DIY sanitary pad. But there's evidence that some also used a particularly absorbent type of bog moss. Come on, can you believe that? And finally, we'll look into the hardships in their daily chores. Well, the home was considered to be the woman's space. It was their duty to keep it clean and orderly. Women were also supposed to watch over the children. A peasant woman had to do this all on her own. They were also expected to help their husbands with their job. And as a woman's work is never done, there is evidence to suggest that women in the medieval period not only fulfilled housekeeping responsibilities such as cooking and cleaning, but also undertook other tiring household tasks such as grinding, brewing, butchering, and spinning, plus producing items like flour, ale, meat, cheese, and textiles both for personal use and for sale. Well, there you have it. We hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel without any delay. Make sure you turn on post notifications and also let us know in the comments section about your views on these uncanny things women had to face in the Middle Ages. Did anything surprise you? Thanks for watching Unthinkable Past. Until the next time we meet, continue learning and stay healthy. Goodbye.